In the original incarnation of this series, Don't Vote Labour, I warned of the signs that Labour, were it to win, would put forward legislation allowing assisted suicide. Starmer had long supported it. The biography by Tom Baldwin states the issue has been an interest to him since his Director of Public Prosecution days, when he decided not to prosecute a couple who had taken their disabled son to be euthanized in Switzerland. He had pledged a parliamentary vote on the issue and told us he was in favour of changing the law. He said this in a public phone call to Dame Esther Rantzen. The obviously staged call was recorded by ITV News on March the 12th, 2024. Starmer said, "I'm personally in favour of changing the law. I think we need to make time. We will make the commitment, Esther. I can give you that commitment right now." Later he would make a point of refusing to say how he would vote, which was useless as he'd already done it. Starmer had made much of the Rantzen promise, citing it numerous times. Rantzen, 84, has stage 4 cancer and has joined Dignitas in order to commit assisted suicide in Switzerland. She has made documentaries and campaigned on the issue. She does have a stake in the matter then, but it's still odd to base government policy on a pledge to a celebrity TV presenter. It looks suspiciously populist, or at least what Starmer mistakenly thinks will be popular. In the 6 weeks leading up to the general election, Labour were quiet about the issue, and funnily enough it didn't feature in their manifesto. We did not have to wait long for such a vote. The proposed legislation came within 4 months of Labour coming to power. It will not go to a referendum, which would have been a true democratic test. Instead, as happened when Ted Heath took us into the EEC in 1973, the issue will be decided by Parliament alone. A bill was drafted and submitted by Kim Ledbetter, the sister of the assassinated MP Joe Cox. Ledbetter was selected by Labour in dubious circumstances, likely because of who she was. With amazing swiftness for such a complex issue, the bill has been approved at the second reading stage by a majority of 55. It will now go to committee stage and then be put to a final vote in both chambers. Assuming it passes, it will become an act and receive royal assent. For the first time since capital punishment was abolished, the state will be able to facilitate death outside of military action and allowing armed police to use lethal force. My personal view was, and still is, that I could support such a policy if there were strict safeguards and it was only allowed for the terminally ill or people whose day-to-day lives could not be experienced without terrible physical pain. Everything else, including disability and mental illness, had to be treated through the existing methods, with a view to preserving life. I could, however, understand people's opposition and their concerns about it. I highlighted it as an issue, knowing how many social conservatives are opposed to the idea and seeing how it might be implemented badly. Assisted dying, or to use the non-politically correct terms assisted suicide or euthanasia, has always been a controversial topic. In recent years, it has gained more prominence owing to it being legalised in Justin Trudeau's Canada in 2021. Disturbing stories abound of perfectly healthy old people, depressed teenagers, or soldiers with PTSD booking a state-assisted suicide. There are concerns about coercion from a third party, the state's duty of medical care being compromised, and whether the safeguards preventing abuse are sufficient. It's even feared there is a eugenics component to the concept, and is a way of disposing of burdens on the state, as occurred under the Nazis and elsewhere. UK citizens, as Starmer well knows, have been travelling to Canada, Switzerland or the Netherlands for the treatment. A Dutch girl was euthanized in Holland because she had mental health issues rather than anything physical. Clearly such a thing is deeply immoral and must not be allowed. Ledbetter's bill does not, in fairness, emulate the model in those countries. The clue is in the official name, the Terminally Ill Adults End of Life Bill. It only applies to people over 18 who are terminally ill and judged to only have 6 months left. The text states the process would not apply to mental illness or disability. The procedure would need to be signed off by the patient themselves, an independent witness, 2 medical practitioners, one working on the patient's case, the other unconnected, and a High Court judge. It needs to be demonstrated the patient is of sound mind. The patient would be required to press the button or take the pills themselves, having been prepped by the doctor. There are custodial sentences ranging from 14 years to life if the process is abused. So far so good, but how safe are these safeguards really? And will the criteria for eligibility become more liberal further down the line?